Sheriff Alex Villanueva launched his re-election campaign with a kickoff event in Santa Fe Springs this weekend. LA's controversial sheriff is seeking a second term to lead a department that is currently under investigation by the state attorney general, facing allegations of unconstitutional policing. And while crime and homelessness are the top issues in most local races this year, the sheriff's race is roiled by allegations of deputy gangs, an issue that has plagued LASD for 50 years. Villanueva sent a cease and desist letter to the Board of Supervisors to stop using the phrase deputy gang, calling it defamatory. Then this week, his oversight agency announced a full-scale investigation.
It's no longer a secret that some deputies inside the Compton Sheriff Station have a matching tattoo under their uniforms. It's appeared on their personal vehicles and inside the station itself.
Which deputies do you know arranged for other deputies to get that tattoo identified?
In fact, in recent sworn testimony, Compton Deputy Jaime Juarez said he attended 7 inking parties for deputies invited to get the tattoo. He declined to say if he has it himself.
It's the pretty much the line deputies, the deputies that work patrol, that they decide if they see a deputy who's a leader at the station, who conducts himself in a professional manner.
His deposition is part of yet another civil lawsuit concerning so-called deputy gangs in the LA County Sheriff's Department.
But just to be clear, your testimony today is that getting that tattoo in your body does not connotate membership in any group. Is that correct?
To me personally, no.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva is seeking another term to lead a department rocked by the deputy gang scandal. Villanueva supports a new state law that makes law enforcement gangs illegal, and at his campaign kickoff event insisted his department has nothing to hide.
We've arrived at conclusions, we've made employment decisions, we even referred cases to the district attorney. We've asked for the attorney general to step in on cases, and also the feds. So we're not hiding anything from anybody.
The Juarez deposition follows bombshell testimony by another Compton deputy in 2020.
The time is 10:59 and we are on the record.
That a deputy who shot a teenage security guard, Andres Guadardo, was trying to earn the tattoo.
There are parties after after shootings. They call them 998 parties. Some people say it's to celebrate that, the deputy's alive, and others believe it's, to celebrate that, they're going to be inking somebody.
The department investigated his claims, but the results have been a secret until now. Inspector General Max Huntsman says the investigation found 30 deputies with the tattoo in Compton. A separate probe in East LA found 11 deputies with this matching Banditos tattoo. He said there's not enough information, though, to call it a deputy gang.
Are there gangs in the Sheriff's Department? Yes. Which groups are, which groups have been, which groups have faded? That kind of precision is what's necessary for the state to be able to take action.
Villanueva says the Inspector General and his oversight agency are engaging in a proxy war on behalf of his political opponents on the LA County Board of Supervisors.
I don't expect deputies to get tattoos of Hello Kitty. And let's be realistic here. These are grown men, grown women. And the tattoos they put on themselves, that's an expression of their First Amendment right. If and when that translates into criminal conduct or behavior that harms other people, please, we're all ears, and we have addressed that. The problem is the Inspector General adamantly refuses to admit that we took the appropriate action with the information we have.
Huntsman believes Villanueva is engaged in a cover-up.
The story that's told to the press and the truth in the records do not appear to be the same.
Juarez says this is not the only matching tattoo on deputies inside the Compton station.
And then the other one, it looks like I don't know what to call them, a gladiator or an X-Men. It's like a figure with a helmet and an axe.
As to what that tattoo means, he said he didn't know.
The
Antelope Valley may be on the edge of LA County, but community organizer Arthur Calloway says it's at the heart of the issues. On Monday, he invited candidates for LA County Sheriff to a forum. After all, the sheriff stations out here are still monitored by the Department of Justice after a 2013 investigation found deputies discriminated against black residents with unlawful searches and unreasonable force.
There's really nothing that shows like actual progress and learning from the side of the sheriff department. In my opinion, it is just all performative.
But when it came to take the tough questions, most of the candidates were no-shows, including incumbent Sheriff Alex Villanueva, to the surprise of his supporters who posted signs to welcome him. The department is embroiled in a scandal. Leaked courthouse video shows a deputy kneeling on the head of a handcuffed inmate for 3 minutes. The question, why did it take a year for the video to come to light? On Monday, Commander Alan Castellanos filed a claim accusing the sheriff of obstruction of justice. The claim states the sheriff, Under Sheriff Timothy Murakami, Assistant Sheriff Robin Limon, and Lieutenant Anthony Blanchard all saw the video days after the incident, but the sheriff moved to cover it up, fearing bad publicity. The claim echoes assertions made by former Deputy Chief Eli Vera, who's running against Villanueva for the top job.
The common theme is he's not telling the truth. Unfortunately, I do believe that the sheriff has crossed the line into criminal activity.
Okay, March 10th, use of force incident involving the deputy of the San Fernando court. You already know that.
Tuesday, Villanueva sought to set the record straight, repeating his claim that he was unaware of the incident until November.
Not only did we see November 18th, we took immediate action, and that's what launched the criminal investigation that for some reason eluded all these players from March 10th all the way to November 18th.
Murakami and Blanchard backed him up when pressed by reporters.
Yeah, the question is, when did I see it? The claim in March is false. I don't know where they got it from, but it's not true.
No, the video was never seen in March the way it was presented.
Separately, Villanueva says the department is now investigating the leak, accusing Vera, the inspector general, and an LA Times reporter of a conspiracy.
Well, the act is under investigation. All parties to the act are subjects of the investigation.
Calloway says the scandal is evidence the department values protecting itself above exposing so-called bad apples.
To me, it is not bad publicity to find out somebody did something wrong and then hold them accountable and then show everyone that you did that. That is actually the opposite. That is good publicity if you had done that. But when you try to cover it up, means that you want it to stay the same.
His group will continue to press for transparency and accountability, no matter who leads the department.
Villanueva will be on the ballot in the June primary. He has far outraised his opponents and has all the name recognition of an incumbent.
LA County Democrats helped him win in 2018, but at a recent rally in Santa Clarita, Sheriff Alex Villanueva's support was overwhelmingly conservative. Republican elected leaders spoke from the stage to a few dozen supporters, like this registered Republican who calls himself Mario Presents.
I voted for Villanueva in 2018 because I wanted something different. I wanted a change, and he was the first one to obviously unseat an incumbent, and he's also the first sheriff ever to speak Spanish. Eso es muy importante a mí.
Villanueva said the party has shifted to the left, leading to his embattled relationship with LA Democrats who have urged him to resign.
I'm a proud member of the Democratic Party of JFK and FDR vintage. The whole woke, ultra-progressive, far left is not really where the heart of the the Democratic Party is. I think the pendulum is going to swing back to a middle.
But Villanueva is not just under fire from Democrats, but members of his own department. Whistleblowers, including an assistant sheriff, Robin Limon. In a claim against LA County, Limon accused Villanueva of obstruction of justice to avoid bad publicity, direct dealing with an employee union, using county resources to campaign for re-election, and retaliating against deputies who voiced concerns. How do you respond to claims that your department is working on your campaign, that you're using county resources to campaign?
No, we have a strict, bright line division between the two.
Limon alleges Villanueva's campaign manager, a civilian named Javier Gonzalez, inserted himself into contract negotiations and encouraged the sheriff to deploy deputies in LAPD territory to help the sheriff raise money. Gonzalez himself declined to comment. Villanueva denies all the allegations against him and declined to talk about active lawsuits.
Well, I can say is we'll have more information this week, and the facts are going to be very damning, but won't be for our side, and it'll be up to you folks to decide how to report that.
Supporter Mario Presents dismissed the allegations.
This is just the mainstream media trying to destroy a good Latino candidate's good name. He's actually made our community safer, and the Board of Supervisors has tried everything they can to depower him.
He's standing by his sheriff.
Also known as the homeless industrial complex.
There were startling accusations made at this hearing at LMU where Sheriff Alex Villanueva was accused of extortion, cover-ups, and promoting alleged known deputy gang members. A deputy from the Compton station even testified that groups like the Executioners and the Banditos led work slowdowns that could be linked to increased crime in East LA and Compton.
They're known as the Executioners, deputies at Compton Station with this matching tattoo. And today on the stand, Sheriff's Lieutenant Larry Waldy said when he was captain in Compton, they were in control and used a work slowdown to maintain it.
Doing less police work proactively, only taking calls for service. And when you do take those calls for service, you ensure that your service is diminished.
Waldy was a key witness in the investigative hearing by the Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Committee, where the Inspector General accused Sheriff Alex Villanueva of extortion.
I believe that I'm the victim of a extortion attempt under 518 of the Penal Code, along with all the other public officials, including those sitting to my left and those sitting to my right, who are responsible for oversight of the sheriff.
Insiders described cover-ups, assaults, and work slowdowns at both the Compton and East LA stations. In East LA, deputies have sued, saying members of the alleged Banditos controlled the station and assaulted non-members at an after-work party in 2018. The district attorney's office declined to bring charges. Villanueva was invited to attend the hearing to speak for himself, but declined. He's characterized the investigation as politically driven, telling us, quote, "The department has made numerous statements regarding the numerous unproven allegations regarding deputy subgroups, which you refer to as gangs." Families of men who've been shot and killed by deputies in controversial shootings in East LA packed the public hearing. Stephanie Luna, whose nephew was killed in 2018, called the day overwhelming.
3 years ago when this first happened to Anthony, there was no talk of deputy gang. It was something that was heard of, but there was never any action taken upon it. So to be sitting in the room hearing, whistleblowers come forward, hearing live testimony from a deputy, hearing a deputy that's running for Alex Villanueva's position, it says a lot about the way that things are really starting to change and people are starting to listen.
Waldy, who admitted he's a tattooed member of another group called the Gladiators, was applauded as a hero for breaking the department's code of silence.
I feel fear because I don't know at what lengths individuals might go. I like to believe that people would not follow orders if they came from the top.
Waldy hopes speaking out is just the first step forward for change. Their names may fade from the headlines, but their families never forget. It was over a year ago that Hilda Pedrosa called the sheriff's department to beg for help. Her suicidal brother was holding a knife.
I had no idea what was really going on in the community.
Sheriff Alex Villanueva himself has said he has grave concerns over what happened next. Deputies shot and killed David Ordaz. The family doesn't know if any of the deputies are connected to an alleged deputy gang called the Banditos that whistleblowers say run the East LA station.
They're just so cruel that they don't care for life.
That August, a tattoo artist confirmed to Spectrum News 1 deputies continue to get the tattoo. The station's captain, Rick Mejia, told us the deputy gang problem had been addressed.
I can assure you that there is no bandito alleged deputies working patrol in East LA right now.
But at a press conference Wednesday, Chief April Tardy admitted that last fall, the department did investigate negative media reports and concerning use of force incidents and transferred deputies out of East LA. The press conference was long on policy, but short on specifics.
There were a couple of other incidents at the station involving different personnel, so those issues were addressed.
The press conference followed 2 investigative hearings by their oversight board, where it was reported tattooed deputy cliques led work slowdowns in East LA and Compton. Top brass has openly flouted subpoenas, including Sheriff Alex Villanueva refusing to show up.
That the former head of the Professional Standards Division of the Sheriff's Department would conduct himself in this manner regarding a subpoena suggests that the department has something to hide.
On Friday, the board urged county lawyers to get a judge to compel their testimony under threat of fines or even jail time.
This body should do whatever is necessary to expeditiously enforce these subpoenas.
Chief Tardy says she would comply if subpoenaed, but when asked if the Ordaz case was of concern to her, she said she didn't know.
Chief, was it the David Ordaz incident in East LA? Was that one of the use of force incidents?
I'm not sure of the name.
After all this time, Pedrosa has heard nothing more about her case, except that it has been handed over to District Attorney George Gascon's office.
I have hope. I will not lose hope.
No matter how long it takes, she'll never stop fighting for her brother and for her community in East LA. LA County's 2 most powerful law enforcement officials have been notably absent from a series of hearings looking into alleged deputy gangs inside the LA County Sheriff's Department, even while their names come up frequently in sworn testimony.
And about how long did you know the Undersheriff Murakami?
For approximately 30 years.
Do you know whether he has a tattoo as a member of a deputy clique?
I understand he has a tattoo of a caveman on his ankle, yes.
And the cavemen were a deputy clique, as you understood it?
Yes.
The commission subpoenaed Undersheriff Timothy Murakami in August, then again in April. But Sheriff Alex Villanueva's second-in-command claims he cannot appear because he has a medical condition that is aggravated by excessive stress. Spectrum News 1 looked into his claims and recently obtained a letter sent to Villanueva from the county's director of personnel, saying they investigated Murakami's request and found he did not have a covered disability and he would not be eligible for workplace accommodations. The letter informed Villanueva that he, quote, cannot waive an essential job function like testifying at the COC, and recommended he place Murakami on a medical leave of absence or transfer him. The letter is dated March 4th.
Yeah, the question is, when did I see it?
A month later, Murakami appeared at this press conference, taking tough questions from reporters, and by July 1st, he still hadn't shown up at the COC.
We are told by a reported physician that the stress of responding to a subpoena and testifying before the commission would be too stressful and create an adverse health risk for him.
Former Undersheriff Neil Tyler represented the department on the working group that created the commission after another sheriff and undersheriff went to federal prison for covering up abuse in LA County jails.
Well, I understood that appearing before the commission, whether you call it testimony or just sharing information or explaining what we're doing and why, would be an integral part of the undersheriff's job. That's part of being a bridge to the community toward the sheriff's department.
Spectrum News 1 reached out to Villanueva, Murakami, their lawyers, the department, and Villanueva's re-election campaign for interviews and statements, but were told they were unavailable. The department said it cannot discuss protected health information of any LASD employee. On Friday, the department said Villanueva would appear at the next hearing to answer questions, but then Sunday, the sheriff backed out. Inspector General Max Huntsman said Murakami's health claims don't make sense since his job is inherently stressful.
It's also deeply disturbing because I don't believe it. If you are doing this job of running the sheriff's department, how could you not do this other job? How would you not be able to? And so it sounds, at least, it seems hard to believe.
Tyler said he has no personal knowledge of Murakami's condition and can only speak to what he would do if he were still undersheriff.
I would expect the sheriff to replace me, or I would confer with the sheriff about the advisability of my stepping down or his moving me or whatever, because I'd feel that I wasn't the best qualified person for the job if it were that way for an extended period of time.
The next hearing will take place Monday at Loyola Law School and is open to the public.
When your name is called, please go to the middle of the room. I will be calling the names.
While her bosses continue to defy subpoenas to testify on alleged deputy gangs, Chief April Tardy swore to tell the truth about her investigations into two tattooed deputy groups, the Banditos in East LA and the Executioners in Compton. Tardy said she's been hamstrung because county lawyers told her in January she can't ask employees about their tattoos.
Personally, I know that we can't ask because I have asked certain people if prior to them coming to the station, whether or not they were part of the subgroup of that station, and I was later told I cannot do that.
Tardy's testimony focused on Sheriff Alex Villanueva's policy banning subgroups and cliques that cause harm. At the last hearing, Tardy confirmed that the Banditos meet the legal definition of a law enforcement gang, but she has no idea who is a member.
I've picked someone for a station, and then I've later found out that they cannot, go to the station because they may or may not have a tattoo. So they've been cut from the list. Not because I asked, but because someone knew.
Villanueva says he will testify only under certain conditions, demanding questions in advance, a neutral hearing officer, and the ability to cross-examine witnesses. He said, quote, "I am more than happy to speak with the commissioners as soon as these requests are granted. They in no way interfere with the commission's ability to ask questions, learn the truth, or fulfill its oversight role." But Commissioner Sean Kennedy says the sheriff does not get to set conditions for oversight and is confident a judge will eventually order him to appear.
First of all, I hope he's going to relent. I thought he did. I mean, Friday he claimed he would be here, and here we are, and he did not show. But if he doesn't on his own show up to testify, we're going to keep moving forward. We're not going to be dissuaded.
During testimony, he pointed out to Tardy that when investigating criminal street gangs, the department has no issue asking about tattoos.
And you do that because the tattoos are powerful circumstantial evidence of gang membership when you're investigating the street gang, right?
Yes, it is.
She finished her testimony today. The question remains when and if her superiors will do the same. The department has left it up to individual deputies whether they want to comply with subpoenas issued by their oversight body. But so far, everyone has, with two notable exceptions, the sheriff and the undersheriff. Investigators uncovered more evidence of a cover-up Friday as Sergeant Jefferson Chow swore to tell the truth about deputy gangs.
Yes, right.
Chow led the investigation into an off-duty party in East LA where deputies claimed they were choked and beaten by the Banditos, alleged deputy gang members branded by a matching tattoo.
Why do you believe investigating the involvement of a deputy clique was appropriate?
To find out the motive.
Chow said orders came from the top to not ask questions about the Banditos. Sheriff Alex Villanueva and Undersheriff Timothy Murakami swore in a new class of recruits Thursday as they refused to testify under oath despite subpoenas. At a debate with challenger Robert Luna, the sheriff said the hearings are meant to undermine his re-election campaign.
We've been in front of the Oversight Commission. I've testified under oath to the Inspector General on the issue of deputy gangs 4 times. We did the last one was April of this year, and I volunteered to do again in May, and they declined because I guess they didn't have an audience to shame me with.
A Spectrum News 1 investigation found his second-in-command got a doctor's note saying testifying would cause excessive stress that would exacerbate a medical condition. We tried to ask him about those claims Thursday, but Murakami refused to elaborate.
No comment? Are you going to be testifying?
Captain Angela Walton answered her subpoena, testifying she faced harassment and retaliation from tattooed deputy members of the Grim Reapers when she worked at Lenox Station.
What message do you think it sends from leadership that they're not coming to testify?
A message it sends is not a message of leadership. It's basically that you can do what you want and you can avoid the law and you can avoid following what you need to do.
Chow said he didn't argue when told not to ask about the banditos.
Sergeant Chow, can you take any more questions?
After all, the direction came from a superior officer, and he was just following orders.
Topic headlines today. The LA County Sheriff's Department has served a search warrant at the home of County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl. And earlier this morning, sheriff's deputies escorted Kuehl out of her house and searched her home. And now in studio, our very own Kate Cagle. You see her here. Kate has been following this story on LASD and the LA County Board of Supervisors for roughly 4 years now. Kate, it's great to have you here. Again, you've been covering for so long. What's the latest?
Well, I spent the morning at Patty Giggins' home as she was being searched and her property seized. Patty is an LA County Oversight Commissioner charged with overseeing the Sheriff's Department that has been under investigation. And she's been under investigation by the department for almost 2 years. Here's what she said this morning.
A 50-year-old domestic violence nonprofit under investigation. The Sheriff's Department serving sweeping search warrants targeting peace over violence, and its executive director, Patty Giggins, seizing cell phones, computers, even their server, crippling their ability to work, and alarming advocates like Robin Petering, who say victims of domestic violence already have few places to turn.
It's a big loss for even if it's just for a day. It's like a huge, huge gap.
The deputies are looking for evidence Giggins bribed her friend, Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, in exchange for a no-bid contract to run a sexual assault hotline on Metro, meant to be an alternative to law enforcement. But in the wake of Wednesday's search,
Now I'm pissed off.
it's the relationship between Giggins and Sheriff Alex Villanueva that is under scrutiny. She's a commissioner on the civilian oversight body investigating alleged gang activity inside the department. On Friday, Mayor Eric Garcetti said Villanueva should have handed the case to a different agency.
You know, I was greatly disappointed to see the manner in which those raids were done. If a sheriff truly believes something needs to be investigated, that should be done independently.
While claiming he's recused himself, Villanueva posted this image on his Instagram account and openly talked about the investigation on the campaign trail this weekend.
We take complaints of criminal activity and we investigate them. That is actually in the state constitution. That is the job of the sheriff, to investigate crime and bring the perpetrators to the magistrate. That is my job.
Jessica Levinson teaches money and politics at Loyola Law School and says this case is extremely unusual.
It does look like the sheriff is using quite aggressive tactics in this case. It is possible that the sheriff is politically targeting somebody. It is also possible that there is enough in that affidavit there for probable cause to search Sheila Kuehl's home.
Villanueva says the county abruptly fired the attorney defending the warrants Friday. And District Attorney George Gascon's office says it won't defend them in court, leaving all of this in the hands of California Attorney General Rob Bonta, whose office, by the way, is also investigating the Sheriff's Department for allegations of unconstitutional policing.
He needs to do his job. He's been sitting on cases that we've been giving him like he's supposed to, because they are conflicts, so we actually write it up, we give it to him, and we're not getting anything at all. Silence.
In the meantime, Petering, who got her start as an intern at Peace Over Violence, worries about the nonprofit's ability to serve their clients amid the investigation.
Like, there's not a lot but there's this number that you can call in this org.
The search warrants will go before a judge this week to see if LASD can keep the evidence it seized. Activists, reformers, and families that have been directly impacted by the Sheriff's Department, specifically to deputy brutality, are urging the Attorney General to do more. Now, we know the AG's office has opened an investigation into civil rights abuses by the LASD, but at this point, families are saying Rob Bonta needs to do something. He was inside a solitary cell when sheriff's deputies found 27-year-old Jelani Lovett crumpled on the ground. The coroner later ruled he had overdosed on fentanyl and heroin. But a year later, his mother, Terry, is demanding answers in his death.
How did Jelani get dope in solitary confinement? They said he had cigarettes, he was smoking in there. How is all this stuff coming in this jail?
Lovett this week was joined by other impacted families, frustrated by a lack of oversight of the LA County Sheriff's Department.
They took something from me that they cannot give back.
In-custody deaths are on the rise, and photos show the mentally ill handcuffed to chairs in the jail. Lovett said it is time for the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, to step in.
This has been going on for decades. It has to start somewhere. Somebody has to start turning things around.
Bonta declined to be interviewed for this story. The previous Attorney General, Javier Becerra, launched an investigation into the sheriffs in January 2021, amid reports tattooed deputy gangs called the Banditos and the Executioners were running the East LA and Compton stations. Bonta's office confirms that investigation is ongoing, telling us the California Department of Justice investigation comes on the heels of allegations of excessive force, retaliation, and other misconduct, as well as a number of recent reported incidents involving LASD management and personnel. The sheriff has repeatedly said he's dealt with the decades-long deputy gang problem.
We even referred cases to the district attorney. We've asked for the Attorney General to step in on cases and also the feds.
Now Bonta's office is taking up a new investigation after sheriff's deputies obtained a warrant to search the homes of Villanueva's political rivals, Supervisor Sheila Kuehl and Commissioner Patty Giggins, looking for evidence of a crime behind a no-bid contract for Giggins' nonprofit to run a sexual assault hotline on Metro, where the sheriff also has a contract to provide public safety. Bonta said this week his office took over the investigation at the urging of Villanueva to look into whether county lawyers illegally tipped off Kuehl and Giggins.
So we have a request that is very recent, within days. So to your question about why now, we got a request.
Bonta's letter said he'd been aware of the sheriff's investigation since January, and Villanueva says he could have stepped in sooner.
He needs to do his job. He's been sitting on cases that we've been giving him like he's supposed to because they are conflicts, so we actually write it up, we give it to him, and we're not getting anything at all. Silence.
The sheriff and his critics now have something they can agree on.
I want the Attorney General to do what he get paid to do.
They're growing impatient with lengthy investigations and want the AG to do something.
Everyone is closely watching this department to see how things evolve. And one of Luna's first moves was historic, choosing a woman, April Tardy, to be his second in command. I sat down with Tardy in her first television interview to learn more about her vision for the department.
After nearly 30 years in the LA County Sheriff's Department, Under Sheriff April Tardy is now the face of change. Her promotion to second in command, a signal from newly elected Sheriff Robert Luna, the department is moving into the 21st century.
This is a milestone for the Sheriff's Department in 172 years. I'm sitting here as the first female Under Sheriff for Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. It's amazing.
She's at the helm amid changing political winds. Tardy says this career is bigger than any one person.
I mentor a lot of young men and women on the department, and I tell them, remember why you took the oath. Remember why you decided to get into law enforcement. And that's what makes me smile every single day.
Tardy made headlines this summer when she testified under oath at a series of investigative hearings into deputy gangs. Her bosses at the time, including Under Sheriff Timothy Murakami, refused to do the same and are still engaged in a lengthy court battle over appearing.
I always said if I'm ever subpoenaed, I'm going to go. And the reason is we expect our deputies to abide by the law and subpoenas. And if I'm leading by example, then I need to be that example for all of them.
The Civilian Oversight Commission's chair, Sean Kennedy, said Tardy's promotion shows Luna is serious about cooperating with oversight.
That was, I thought, a good start. So many members of the department's upper leadership refused to comply with oversight subpoenas. And April Tardy, I think it was very difficult for her. She was very uncomfortable up there. But she did appear and she did testify, actually twice.
Tardy says change will be incremental, beginning with reestablishing relationships with oversight and the Board of Supervisors.
I want to make law enforcement wonderful again. I want kids to wave at us and enjoy seeing us come down the street.
She sees her job as rebuilding the department's reputation from the inside out.
Yeah, it's not a task for one man to handle. In fact, the department's own Civilian Oversight Commission has documented at least 18 secret tattooed deputy gangs that have existed over the past 50 years. Loyola Law School professor Sean Kennedy has led the charge in investigating this and says the problem is much bigger than even just one department.
It sounds like an urban legend. Secret tattooed societies within law enforcement that use their badges as a shield to act with impunity. But Loyola Law School professor Sean Kennedy says deputy gangs are a very real and current problem in the LA County Sheriff's Department.
We developed more evidence than I ever expected.
As chair of the department's Civilian Oversight Commission, Kennedy led a series of hearings this year on the matter, where anonymous deputies testified the Banditos deputy gang is still active in East LA, despite media attention, lawsuits, and a progressive district attorney.
There is a gang culture throughout the department, which is about being secretive, about rejecting civilian oversight, and really othering communities out there that you are working in and policing.
Newly elected Sheriff Robert Luna has pledged to work with the commission to eradicate deputy gangs. His second in command, Under Sheriff April Tardy, says they don't know how many employees have these kinds of affiliations and tattoos.
I can't answer the question as to why some people decide to join a subgroup and some don't, because we don't know who necessarily has a tattoo and who doesn't have a tattoo. But what I can say is that when the loyalty to a subgroup is greater than the oath that you swore, then that's a problem.
In an interview this week, Luna's predecessor, Alex Villanueva, told Inside the Issues the Oversight Commission is political theater.
I personally went to the Oversight Commission, but they flipped a switch at some point and decided it was going to be an adversarial relationship and we're the hammer, you're the nail, and conform to that. And that just is not oversight. That is just political thuggery.
Kennedy says the previous sheriff's continued defiance of oversight subpoenas is both damaging and paid for by taxpayers.
He's used a very aggressive legal team paid for by the county council to continue to delay and obfuscate.
Kennedy cautions deputy gangs have existed because the whole of government works to shield itself from accountability, transparency, and liability. A systemic problem bigger than any one person can solve.
Voters elected change for the LA County Sheriff's Department, not just by electing a new sheriff, but also by passing Measure A. It means the Board of Supervisors now has the power to fire an elected sheriff who dodges oversight or refuses to follow the law. But the advocates who push for that measure are hardly optimistic about the future of the department.
It's been nearly 5 years since East LA deputies shot and killed Anthony Vargas, and his family has yet to have their day in court. But his aunt, Stephanie Luna, says that day is coming soon. Her family's civil lawsuit against LA County is scheduled to go to trial next year.
We could have settled. It's just that department they've caused too much harm and too much damage to my family.
We've been following the family's quest for accountability over the past 4 years. DA Jackie Lacey declined to charge the officers involved. Deputies said they recovered a gun under Anthony's body after they shot and killed him, but his DNA was not on the weapon, and the only witnesses are the deputies.
There's nothing we can do about it but expose them. There's nothing we can do about it but talk about them. My name is Stephanie Luna, and I am the aunt of Anthony Vargas.
Check the Sheriff is a coalition of families, lawyers, and advocates that push for Measure A. Voters passed it overwhelmingly in November, giving the Board of Supervisors the power to fire a sheriff who dodges oversight. Voters also elected Robert Luna as sheriff, who said he plans to eradicate deputy gangs, particularly in East LA, where he grew up and where Anthony was killed. His new undersheriff, April Tardy, was involved in the internal effort to break up that station's alleged deputy gang known as the Banditos.
We're evolving and we're trying to get away from that stigma of the negativity with the tattoos and the penal code section that states it is a law enforcement gang.
But at a recent community town hall, Luna said she has little faith that change at the top will result in real accountability.
I don't see like the ultimate benefit of having Robert at the helm of this department. I just feel like it's a change in boots.
In her view, if there's change at the LA County Sheriff's Department in 2023, it will come from the outside in.